Hello, beautiful people. This is Daniel Kurkowski for another VSM Real Estate Podcast. This week, I'm joined by Ryan Schroeder.
Daniel, the beautiful people. Nice. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah, he gave me a skeptical look as that came out. And we're also joined by the owner of Touching Hearts at Home, Aaron Stomley.
How's it going?
Very good. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Aaron and Ryan have a relationship. They've known each other for how long now?
I'd guess about 3 years.
3 years? Yeah, sounds about right.
And kind of how did that start?
Do you want to tell the story or you want me to?
I can start. So I was living in a townhome in Shakopee at the time, and my fiance and I, we were looking to move out, and rather than sell my townhome, I'd always kind of wanted to get into real estate a little bit and rent. And I thought this was a good opportunity to just, rent out the place and see that. So
You already own it, yeah.
Yep. And I was kind of, at the time, I was a little underwater anyway, so it didn't really make sense.
Most people were in, in 2011, 12, something like that.
Yeah. So I was interviewing different, property management companies, and then Ryan was like the last person I interviewed, or his company, and then lo and behold, Ryan shows up at the door, and then he introduced himself as the CEO, and then I was like, whoa, who's this dude out working it here? And we just sort of developed a really good relationship. Obviously, I ended up going with VSM at the time, and I've just kind of really stayed in touch with him. I can tell he's got like an entrepreneurial kind of spirit and mind about him, which kind of draws me in a lot, and we're kind of cut from the same cloth that way. So we've just developed a relationship over time, and then I've ended up, using them and ultimately buying more properties with Ryan.
I'd like to hear how many other companies I beat out for the job here. Let's go back to that.
Yeah, I interviewed 4 other companies, and none of them were any of the big guys either. They were all, I purposely wanted to go with, maybe you guys are big guys now, but I purposely wanted to go with kind of a, I don't want to say no name, but someone who just
like, Ryan, you were a nobody. My business made you who you are today.
Yeah. Right, clearly.
But someone with just more of a I don't know, I felt like I'd have a better connection with, and like I said,
get a little more personal attention and all that. Yeah. Yep. And I recall when we had met, you had a giant, like 200-pound dog, and you had a list of questions, and your fiance was scrutinous with her own line of questioning. And I remember coming away from the meeting thinking that you guys were a lot more prepared and discerning than my typical client, which, knowing that I was in a competitive situation too, I think sharpened me as well, and I wanted to really earn that business. But like you alluded to, our common entrepreneurial ambition, I think, was what kind of spawned it from becoming just a vendor-client relationship to a friendship and an ongoing business relationship.
Yeah, and it was kind of simply too. I kind of remember the moment. So it went very smoothly, the whole process of getting on board and things like that with your company. And then I think I asked you, like, hey, do you have any books that you would recommend? I'm kind of interested in this, and there might be an opportunity for me to get into this a little more heavily. And then you recommended a book. I don't even remember which book.
I think Real Estate Loopholes.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's like, I know what book it was.
Yeah.
I know what the next 3 were too, probably.
Yeah.
And that's really what it took me off, and I read that book pretty quickly, and then I started asking Ryan lots of questions and things like that, and that's kind of slowly how it developed.
Yeah, I think we actually had a lot of discussions early on about everything from selling your house to doing refinances to, you had some you could potentially access some capital from an IRA and different things, and I tried to take on a advisor role with you, and then I do recall when you had eventually made the decision that you were going to use some funds that you had, set aside for different things to buy investment properties, that I sent you off to meet with a lender. And that's typically where we lose a lot of our would-be investors who go from the dream to the reality.
Yeah.
Is are you willing to write a check? Are you willing to pull your credit? Those kinds of things.
It's amazing the number of people who don't pass the test of, will you spend an hour filling out your personal information? You lose 95% of people on that. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. It is, and being in the business that we're in, we know that the majority of people are not going to do that. So I'm always a little bit skeptical until somebody actually does that and provides that to me before I'm going to get in the car and start showing you things. So
right, it really has to do with just are you gonna? Talk is cheap, right? So if you can talk all you want and have all these ideas and talk strategies and things like that, but at the end of the day, you just got to do it,
right?
And that's really where I come from too. I had an interest in it, and I wanted to know more about it, and then once I learned more about it, it's just really you gotta do it.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest step, as we were all alluding to, is just doing it.
Right. Well, I think knowledge begets confidence. Mm-hmm. And then once you've got that confidence, I can say from my own personal experience, I probably wouldn't have done as much as I have done if it weren't for Goran. He had already done some things, and he kind of helped me to get over that emotional hurdle of, okay, now I'm just going to actually jump in. And I feel like I was that person for you a little bit to say, hey, man, it can work. Here's the proof. Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. If I wouldn't have had at least your guidance, for sure, and kind of what to look at and where to look, it would have been not that I couldn't have done it, but it would have been a lot more difficult, and ultimately I probably at some point would have been like, whoa, I may be in over my head a little bit here. So it's really, it's really good to have your guidance.
Yeah, it's good to have a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And a mentor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a similar relationship in the sense that Ryan really took me under his wing and started helping me, and, was able to get 4 units in my first year, focusing on flips right now, branching out and doing things that they don't really even focus on. But being able to instill the confidence of knowing that your numbers are correct and knowing that you can trust your instincts is a really important thing to be able to do for someone.
Right. And I still recall when you did end up buying some of your first investment properties that I think 3 of them were clients that were already VSM management customers who had expressed an interest in selling. And so you had the inside track in a non-MLS situation to be able to come in, be the only person who was looking at it and have a direct line to the seller. And I think that ended up working out really well both for you and for the sellers, because we weren't exactly putting their tenants out and inconveniencing them with 100 showings and things like that, and you were able to make some decisions. You want to talk a little bit about what that experience was like?
Yeah, I think that's what really helped me really jump in quickly, because it was nice, knowing that there wasn't competition out there at the time, and it was also nice knowing that you had a relationship too with these people, or at least you would come with me to even look at these properties and things like that, and I could see firsthand, there's already tenants here, it's been working, things like that. So it really made the comfort level for me.
I remember too when you and Brianne and I were looking at some stuff that was on the MLS, and it was just junk.
Yeah, like there's a couple times where we just walked away like, what the hell did we just look at?
I know. I remember there was one house we looked at from the street, and we're like, that thing's leaning a good 8 degrees to the side.
Yeah.
Bust out my protractor.
Yeah, I eyeballed it. I'm pretty good at geometry. No big deal.
Yeah, but just that for me was welcome too. And then it just being that there's tenants in there, or there were tenants already in the property, it's just like less to deal with.
Mm-hmm. It takes some of the guesswork out.
Yeah.
You run your pro formas on actual numbers versus. Yeah.
Yep, so. It's just more of a straightforward, like, you can really see the picture clearly, because there's already, the tenants in place, and you're getting, you know what the cash flow is, you know what the rent is, and then it's really just kind of, plugging in what can you realistically buy the house at, and just working all those numbers makes it easier.
So how many rental units do you have right now?
Right now, 6.
Okay.
Yep, 6, and at some point I'm definitely going to grow that number. 6 feels good right now. I'm pretty comfortable with that, and letting those, at least in my portfolio, mature a little bit and really get that cash flow going. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of
I've spoken to Aaron a little bit about this as well, just occasionally, and it seems like he has a very balanced strategy. And what very few people do is, there's a lot of books that give a lot of good advice. The one that you mentioned, the Loopholes book, there's a section where he talks about the 4 quadrants, right, of investments, owning your own business, working yourself, and then
self-employed and employee.
Yeah, exactly.
The different 4 income streams you can have, yeah.
Right. So of the 4 different income streams, he's recommending 2. And I think most people look at it and they're like, yeah, that's right. That's the way to do it. I'm going to go back to work in my, hourly salary job. But you kind of saw it and you're like, yep, that's a good strategy. I'm going to go make that happen for myself. And you did it. And that's pretty incredible. Very few people follow advice that they know to be good advice.
Yeah, it gets back to, at least in my eyes, just, again, talk is cheap. So everybody can sit out there and say, real estate's great, or this investment's great, for various different reasons. But, as we've alluded to, very few times will you see people actually, pull the trigger and do it. And that's really what separates, in my view, do you want to get into passive income? Do you want to get into real estate? I mean, are you really serious about it, or are you just going to be comfortable, in your working until you're 70 and not having any passive income and just relying on your employer to, get you through retirement?
Yeah.
Some people, sure, maybe that's fine for them, but I don't want to rely on that, and I believe in all the benefits that I've read about and been told about, and that I've even seen just through Ryan and talking with him and how his business has grown. He's
absolutely.
Yeah.
You did also take an important transition, I think, from being a high W-2 wage earner with a good job as an analyst. You had security. You had a skill that I remember we had conversations about. You were getting offers from other companies for more salaries. You could have potentially stayed that path, but during the entire time that you were buying properties, and then after that, you would come to me on occasion with, I've looked at this business or I've looked at that business, and I could sense that your aspirations to follow your entrepreneurial spirit were only growing. The more you did, the more you learned, the more that passion grew. You want to talk a little bit about how you made the leap?
Yeah, I've always, even right out of college, I've always known that either at some point in my life I want to own my own business or work for myself. And I've always told myself, if an opportunity ever came to do that, or I was ever in a position to do that, I'm gonna do it. And it is a big deal. It's a lifestyle change. And one thing that I keep telling myself, and my wife too, because that's another component of it is if you're married, your spouse really needs to be on board with it.
Absolutely.
And I can't understate that. Like if your spouse isn't on board, sure, you can do it, but it's I think we all know where that's going to end up.
Yeah.
For
so
sure.
True.
And so I was lucky. I had a spouse who was on board with it. But I don't want to say I sold it to her like this, but one thing I said is,
you have the bank getting your business loan, give them your presentation. You're like, I'm going to need that back. I'm taking that home and giving it to my wife.
One thing I told her though is, at any job, at any employer, unless you're under contract, but they can let you go at any point in time, right? I mean, you're an employee at will.
Yeah.
I'm threatened constantly.
Yeah. Trust me, I've heard. And And I actually it just happened, the place that I worked, they got in some new senior management, and it didn't directly affect my team, but a team that I knew about, they got let go. And the company I was working at was not struggling to hire people, or financially they were very sound. It's just, new management sometimes brings in new people. And it just, at that point, that was a couple years ago, at that point it really kicked in my head, just like, man, I just don't want to deal with that anymore.
Be subject to someone else's goals versus your own.
Right. And then when I started thinking about it as well, like, there's projects and other things that I work really, really hard on. And, a lot of times for whatever reason, like just maybe even lack of funding, or there's just higher priorities within the company, you work really, really hard on this project and it just goes nowhere. Yeah. Right. And then it's like, what am I doing? Like, I want to go somewhere where I work hard and I can see the results. And so that's what really drove me to go into, one, real estate, but then also to look at my, getting into my own business and things like that. And then, the wheels started really turning. And I know, obviously, Ryan has his own business here with VSM, so I really started, asking him questions and running ideas by him. And, what do you think about this type of business? And
he kicked the tires on some real crap businesses.
Yeah. But
I was like, no, man, no.
But I listened.
Pagers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get into the newspaper business.
But I did use Ryan as a resource, but I listened to what he had to say too. I think that's key. That you got to use your resources around you, and not only use them, but really listen to them. Not that you have to do what they say, but at least really factor them into your decision making. It's important not to get so arrogant and think that you know it all, because you don't when you're just starting out, whether it's real estate or buying a business.
And the markets are always changing. So, I guarantee you there's a lot of people right now in real estate who would tell us that the best way to run a brokerage is going to be, some antiquated way that they used to do it, and they're not focusing on social media. They're not engaging a lot of other things that we are, that are focused, more towards the younger demographic, just because the market changes and you have to keep up with it. So being open to new ideas is important, not just for your lack of knowledge, but for what the shifting of the winds does for you too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think whether you're talking about real estate or this new business venture that you purchased recently, staying at the front of technology and the changing demographics, just being aware of the whole world and where things are going, not being flat-footed, not being so stubborn to think that you have it all figured out, is really important. You've been a client of ours long enough to see how much we've evolved, and we're not the same company. We started as a property management company, but we've shifted our focus to being a real estate investment company because we saw that as a niche that the market needed, and a way for us to differentiate ourselves as well. So all the social media, these podcasts and everything else is a way for us to be ahead of everybody else. Now, this new business that you got into, you want to talk a little bit about what you guys do?
Sure. So when I was, I should say my wife and I, because she's definitely part of the equation. So when we were looking for different businesses, like Ryan had alluded to, we kicked the tires on some ones that I even asked him about. And the reason why we ultimately didn't go with those is they weren't that interesting. just high level. I mean, they were probably pretty good business. They were profitable companies and things like that. But just it's nothing I could get really passionate about. Mm-hmm. And then two, they were just they were just tough to get really. I just didn't see a market for them beyond, like, after I started talking with Ryan about a couple of these, we just he made some good points about, like, do you really want to go down that road. I mean, just think about 10 years from now. Is that going to be a viable business?
Right. I think there were a few that we thought were mature to the point of they've already crested, perhaps, and that's probably why these people were selling, is because they saw the writing on the wall that things were going to get worse, not better.
Right.
But you ended up going towards something that had to do with home health care, which, perfectly aligns with our aging demographic and the fact that the United States has become a primarily service-based economy.
Right. Yeah, and there's just a huge need out there for mainly our elderly population, but not necessarily just that population, but people who just our generation and I think my parents even, they just want to stay in their home as long as possible. They don't want to go to a nursing home unless they're forced to, and so that's what the company that I purchased, Touching Hearts at Home, that's what they do. They specialize in it. So we send out caregivers to people's homes, and we match up. It's kind of like those dating websites. Like we literally are matching up, the client's needs versus our caregivers and what they're really good at, and we want to make sure they're a good fit for each other because this could be a really long relationship that they have.
Right.
I mean, that's what we want. We want them to have that deep personal relationship with the clients they're serving, and then we just really work with the clients on what do they need from us to do, and it can be anything from, we call it companion care, to maybe they need to be driven to an appointment, or maybe they need laundry done like once a week, or just help with meal planning, groceries, to we can do a little more personal care too, where maybe a client has Alzheimer's or dementia. There's more of a personal touch that's needed. So we also staff nurses that can go out and do that kind of more complicated care that's needed, the more comprehensive care. So we really kind of go across the board with that, and it allows us to serve lots of different clients. So the company itself, it's 10 years old, and we purchased the company because the former owners were retiring, so they were in their mid 60s, and just
you picked up 2 new clients as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, future clientele, yes. And they were just looking to get out, and it was kind of a perfect situation. And the company had been running great; it's profitable, but it also needed, which I saw as opportunity, some technology upgrades, different software, and there's better tools out there right now that they weren't utilizing that I've already implemented, and everybody in the office is like, wow, like I'm like, yeah, it's 2016, like I don't understand why we were doing it the way we were doing. So I think they like having some new owners who are energized and excited, and it's going to be a good thing.
I think anytime a new person takes over a business, they're going to provide a different perspective, some fresh energy and enthusiasm, like you alluded to. So that's fantastic. What do you see as some of the growth avenues for your business aside from upgrading the technology? Yeah,
I mean, there's just, as I'm finding out, there's so many clients out there. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't think we're ever going to have trouble finding clients. It's finding quality caregivers that's really the issue, and it's really honing in on how can we hire the best people for the job that are going to stay with us and not just jump ship if they can get more money somewhere else, or
if you crack the code on finding good people and retaining them, you let me know. So
yeah, I mean it's probably a very common.
I think it's
issue.
The most. I would say it's the single most challenging aspect of being a business owner. A lot of people think the finances or this or that, but finding, recruiting, training, and retaining talent is a challenge.
So I mean, just depending on how many quality caregivers we can find, I mean the growth is there for the clients. It's just, can we staff enough people to grow, and just with this business, it's really getting out in the field and just, marketing yourself, like going to assisted living facilities, going to hospitals, just introducing yourself to the people, the nurses and the discharge staff. So when somebody needs some help, they think, here you call Touching Hearts at Home. I've worked with them before. They're great. They'll take care of you. It's really just building those referral sources, which is the nice thing about an existing business, right? They've already got that kind of cooking.
For sure.
Really nice. So it's that was another thing, buying new, right? Starting up a new business versus existing. Obviously, we chose to go existing. Mm-hmm. I just think there's at my stage in life, it would be tough for me to start up a business, to grow those revenues, to maybe go a year without really making a profit. Just at my stage in my life personally, that would be tough. That's why I chose to go with existing. Now, existing, you obviously pay for that existing revenue and profit that's being generated. But at the same time, I'm hitting the ground running right now, mm-hmm. and I love it. And I love the fact that it's a profitable company now, but I can hopefully take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So. And did you buy this business with an SBA loan?
I did. Okay. Yep. There's many different financing options as you'll find out or if you ever decide to go down the road. But the SBA loan, it required the least amount down, mm-hmm. which is what I was really looking for, because I want to put most of my capital into the business,
right,
and really grow it that way. And it wasn't, I know everybody can, or maybe a lot of people are intimidated by the SBA, and there's lots of paperwork and it's through the government. And I found it not to be bad at all. There's paperwork and things like that, but what's nice about it is you have an extra set of eyes on all of your paperwork, because they're looking at all the financials and all the data you're given as well. And it's almost like, well, if they don't give you a loan, something must be up here with this business. So I looked at it as like, there's an extra set of eyes that are really looking at all of the data, and hopefully they're seeing the same thing I am. And if we both miss something, well, then
I think that's a great point. I think anytime there's a bank involved, like on a real estate deal, for example, they're going to look at the numbers too. They're going to look for the debt coverage ratios. They're going to do an appraisal to make sure this asset is worth what you're paying for.
Right.
And it does help you from potentially being bamboozled on, let's say, a seller financing type of deal or something like that, or a cash deal. So
yeah, and there's not a place for the cash deal or for seller financing, mm-hmm. but just coming into it being so new and never having done it before, I thought it was kind of calming. Like, okay, they approve everything. This feels legitimate.
Yeah, no, definitely, that makes a lot of sense. What I'm really impressed by, just from hearing your story from the kind of the inception of you meeting Ryan, I meet a lot of clients out in the field and love talking about their goals. A lot of times on that initial meeting, talk about what their plans are for the future in real estate, just financially or in life, and kind of create that bond a little bit. And very few of them ever make any step forward to do anything with them. I'm impressed that you reached out to Ryan and asked him more questions, asked him for more information to learn about. I'm impressed that you asked him for more guidance on finding additional properties. And because of that, we're rewarded with off-market deals that no one else was competing for, that are cash flowing, that are nice, safe deals for someone in your position. I'm even more impressed then that you continue to grow that portfolio, decided to find a business, a revenue stream outside of the security that you have while you're already investing and, hitting that other quadrant. And now that you own this company, the one thing that you said that was, stood out to me is, you just purchased this company. It's got a revenue stream in place. You said, yeah, so I'm going down and talking to people at hospitals, and there's you're going out and getting in people's face and letting them know what you're doing. And how many people do we talk to and they know that's what they need to do? And you too. How many people do you know who know that's what they should be doing and they don't? And after a while, when someone is like you look back and you don't understand why they don't see the path because it seems so clear. They have all the steps, but there's just a lack of execution and follow through.
Yeah, it's it's not complicated, right?
It's not
to get invested or to buy a business. I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. And so much of it is, you can put a piece of paper in front of you that lists out exactly what you need to do, but at the end of the day, you have to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Step one.
It's literally, it comes down to that. It's just you have to physically want to do it. And if you're not at that point in your life, or if you don't have that mindset, then, maybe you're just happy, working your W-2 job, or, maybe you just aren't ever meant to be in real estate. And that's fine,
Yeah. But different strokes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that wasn't the mindset that I had. And if you do want to get into real estate or buy your own business, the biggest thing you can do is just start doing something. Start asking questions. Start Google online businesses for sale. Just start.
Do something.
There's books out there you can start reading.
Talk to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to podcasts.
Exactly. That's funny.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. Action, is what's going to create those results and everything. And I'm very grateful to have you in today.
Thanks for having me.
It's a sort of an amazing story that I like to point to. I didn't even really think of it until Daniel mentioned it earlier, but the two of you are two of my bigger success stories here in terms of helping people to share the passion that I have for real estate and entrepreneurship and all that. And I'm very happy to see that you've come a long way, and I can't wait to look back at this 5 years from now and see where we're both at then, and just think about how funny it was when we were just doing a podcast in the back of my office here.
Yeah, it's been a great experience, up to this point, and I'm sure it will continue. And just say thank you as well for because not everybody has to answer questions that people underneath them or trying to get a better idea of the business. A lot of times you'll find people won't answer those questions. So it's even better for me, obviously, that you were willing to answer my questions and even go beyond that and really help me and guide me and be a resource. So kudos to you as well.
Thank you. I've got some great mentors out there who still meet with me, take the time out of their busy days as business owners and things like that to talk to me about my issues and things that I'm confronted with. And I think paying it forward is a big part of the whole cycle. One day you'll be doing the same thing for somebody else, talking to them about what they're looking to do, and you can use your story as a guide. So.
Yeah, so that just goes to show, don't be afraid. If someone's doing something you want to do, don't be afraid to ask them about it. Ask for their help, because most likely they received a bunch of help to get where they are, and they're willing to push it forward and help you out.
Yes.
Well, I think on that note, we can sign it off. Again, we're going to put all the info for Touching Hearts at Home in the liner notes, so you can look up all of that. And if you have, my grandma has Alzheimer's right now, so I'm actually interested in looking into it personally as well. But thanks so much for being here and sharing your insight.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good week, everyone.